Welcome to Shelf Byte, a short-form, spoiler-free review series featured here on the Shelf Addiction podcast. I'm your resident reviewer and host, Tamara. I will feed your shelf addiction by sharing bite-sized book and audiobook reviews. In just a few minutes, you'll know my opinion on whether you should be adding today's title to your collection, or if you should borrow it or pass on reading it altogether. If you love long-form bookish chats, check out the Shelf Addiction podcast feed, available wherever you're hearing this episode. Let's begin. Today, I'm reviewing The September House, written by Carissa Orlando, narrated by Kimberly Farr, published September 5th, 2023 by Berkeley and Random House Audio. The hardcover is 356 pages, and the unabridged audio runtime is 13 hours and 51 minutes. First up, I'll summarize for you. So if you haven't read it, you have a good idea what this book is about. This is spoiler-free again, so hopefully this gives some good context for what I'm about to share with you. In this debut novel, Margaret and Hal purchase their dream home on Hawthorne Street despite its terrifying hauntings. While Hal eventually leaves, Margaret stays behind and eventually is joined by her daughter, Catherine, who is unaware of the ghost. With each attempt to find Hal, the hauntings worsen, revealing the house's dark secrets. So before I dive in, I want to thank Penguin Random House for giving me access to the audiobook in exchange for an honest review. So I do want to issue some trigger warnings for this book. I decided I'm going to start incorporating that into the Shelf Bites. I think it's important, especially when there are some big flags waving around. So for this book, I would say some language, drinking, alcoholism, toxic parent relationships, domestic abuse, some child abuse, and obviously gore. So if any of those things are big red flags for you, I would recommend skipping this one. If you're good with that, let's continue. I picked this because it's fall, y'all. It's officially fall, and I wanted to continue my horror-ish vibes, and this seemed to fit the bill. The cover art was appealing, the title was appealing, and I thought, I want to see what the September House is all about. First, I'll share some things that I liked about the book. I love ghost stories in general. That horror theme is the only one that really gives me a reasonable creep factor. This is what I was looking for, to be honest. Again, I wanted that horror-ish vibe, and this delivered that. It takes a lot to scare me, and for some reason, ghosts are the sweet spot for that. I also like that there was a mystery to solve, which added another level to the haunting. And Carissa Orlando nailed the tone of the book, and the atmospheric descriptions were on point. Chef's kiss, really. I liked that the ghosts had their own personalities, which was unique. Not all were dangerous, and some were very much so. While the story definitely followed some of the traditional haunted house tropes, I still had a good time with it. I also was able to guess what happened in the mystery part of the book. I don't think it's really hard to figure out, especially if you read a lot of thriller/mysteries. It's honestly pretty obvious, but when it comes down to it, I didn't care. It was a fun ride anyway. I also love that the book had an ending that will leave you content. Dare I say, even with a smile. I love when an ending gives me exactly what I needed, and Carissa delivered that. Now, what I didn't like, I did not like how the main character saw ghosts as pranksters. Her personality really made light of the ghost at first, and I was not sure how scary this book was going to be. But as the story went on, we learn more about her personality traits and how it's her personality to kind of tolerate a lot. But while doing that, it was minimizing what was going on. And that really kind of made me feel like maybe I had picked the wrong book. But, hang on, stay in there, and it does get better. I think at least by the end of it, we understand her motivations and we understand why she's acting. So when it's all said and done, while I disliked her, being lighthearted about the ghost and calling them pranksters, I'm like, get real, these are ghosts. It didn't bother me by the end. So let's talk about the narrator. This was an audiobook that I listened to, and the narrator did an excellent job. I have not heard Kimberly Farr before, but I definitely would pick up more titles with her name on it. I did speed it up as I always do, but not extremely so. I did listen at 1.5, which was a pretty calm pace for me. No issues, really. And I think that even her narration style helped with the pacing, because I do think that also, another thing I didn't like, I do feel like kind of the movement of the plot was kind of slow. And I think the narrator helped keep me engaged during the slow parts of the book. What would I rate The September House? I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. Yes, 4 out of 5. That is a strong rating, and I stand by it. Like I said, I had a really good time with this read. I got it done in like 2 days. It was a good time, even though, it had its things that I didn't like. The positives far outweighed the negatives, and it was just perfect. And it was what I was looking for at this point in time. So I recommend this book for people who like horror, but maybe, horror with a dose of mystery and some thriller. And this definitely has some other themes going on. So it's not a straightforward horror story. So if you like some undertones and some serious situations, family situations, relationship situations, like kind of in the undercurrent of the story, I think you'll enjoy it. It's really good for spooky season, right? But it's not too scary. So if you're like, oh, I want to try something in the horror genre, but I'm scary, I don't like scary stuff, I still think you would enjoy this as well, because it can be a little scary, but like not overly so, right? It's not extreme in any way, in my opinion. Now, should you add this to your digital or physical shelves, or borrow it from the library or a friend, or should you skip it? I recommend you add it to your shelves, of course. Now, I would definitely download the digital version, so you can take it on audio or Kindle wherever you go, because I think this is one you'll be wanting to carry with you and read on your lunch hour or listen to in the car. It's that good. I had a great time with it. So that's it for my review. If you've read The September House, please let me know how you rated the book. Share your thoughts on the title. You can answer my poll or question directly on Spotify. So if you are listening on Spotify, share with me your feedback, your thoughts, or questions with a tap of your screen. That is it for today's Shelf Byte. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please like and share it with your bookish friends. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can find me everywhere at Shelf Addiction. Until next time, happy reading. Take care of yourselves. Bye, guys. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.